Yaroslav Pryshchepa is a regional editor at Suspilne, Ukraine's public broadcasting service. He's been covering the war since the full-scale invasion began in 2022. Yaroslav, thanks a lot for joining us today.
Hi, David. Thank you for the invitation.
Let's start with the latest news. While we're recording this on Wednesday morning here in Kyiv, U.S. military aid, at least for now, has been completely shut off. Because we're in Kyiv, we enjoy the protection of Patriot missile systems, which are able to shoot down these ballistic and cruise missiles and even hypersonic missiles that the Russians are sending. Tell us what will happen if and when Ukraine runs out of Patriot missiles. What is that going to mean for this lack of an air defense shield in Kyiv?
To be honest, Kyiv is protected not only by Patriots, you know it, we also have NASAMS, we have another anti-air systems, and we have also some old Soviet systems, which are also included in this joint general air anti-air defense system. The lack of missiles for Patriots could be a great problem for Kyiv, because, you know, Kyiv is one of the main cities which Russia is trying to attack. But to be honest, we also have another cities. We have Odessa, where this morning also some missile attack happened and one man died. And we have the situations almost everywhere, especially to the cities which are closer to the front line. Kharkiv cannot be protected by any systems we have, because Russians are using glide bombs, which can be grounded by the systems we have currently. So that's a problem. Of course, we already had some troubles with missiles, with shells. We had delays even in times of administration of Joe Biden. So we see the result of these troubles on the front line, because Russia are trying to use any advantage. And the shortage of supplies is also a big advantage for them. Unfortunately, we cannot replace many American and in general Western ammunition with our own, but we are trying to work on it. We still have some troubles with shells 155 millimeters, and also we really need a powerful anti-air defense. So that's why we can predict the result if we losing this help. We had a really serious attack in July past year, when the hospital, the children hospital, which is really close to the place where we're sitting currently, was also damaged. So unfortunately, if we stay without Patriots, which can work normally and protect the sky about Kyiv, the result could be very serious. But we also need to think about other cities like Odessa, which is under attack almost every day, and Kharkiv, and some cities in Donetsk region, and also Dnipro city. So that's a problem which we have currently.
Sticking with the news on U.S. and Ukraine relations, how did you react to this argument in the Oval Office on Friday between President Zelensky, President Trump, and Vice President Vance? And can you tell us a little bit about what the mood in the country is like right now?
To be honest, up to me, that was maybe predictable, because I didn't believe that any negotiations could start in a normal way and quickly. And we know that the way how President Trump is trying to do politics, it's like the way he used to do his business. So maybe you need to wait a little, maybe you need to start from another point, but it was not a big surprise, at least for me. What I see inside the country when I'm talking to people around me, yeah, there is some disappointment, because some people are really waiting for good results, maybe this spring or maybe summer. But at the same time, I see another idea when people are talking to each other, that there cannot be peace by any price. If we need to give all the territories which are under occupation and recognize them that there is that's a part of Russia, no, definitely no. And if Russian politicians are talking about the territories which are even not occupied yet, like part of Kherson region or Zaporizhia region with Zaporizhia city. That sounds strange up to me. And also, the people here in Ukraine will never accept it.
The other thing that's come up recently has been this talk of a mineral deal, which President Zelensky just last night indicated he is willing to move forward with and sign. What do Ukrainians make of this proposal?
The main question, what we are getting instead of our minerals? What guarantees we receive from American side, for example? If there will be some separated document which provides us some really serious guarantees, like American troops going to be near to the front line, or American aviation is going to protect our skies instead of having ability to get the minerals, yeah, maybe it could work. But honestly, I don't see any points now about this. And another funny question was about Russia, that Russia proposed the American side the same, to get the minerals from our territory and from the occupied territory of Ukraine. So I think that currently everything seems to be very wrong. I think that we need to see the final document and to understand what really both sides can get. American side is getting ability to start mining minerals here, and Ukrainian side obviously need to get something instead. It's not about 300 billions which American administration is talking about, like to get the minerals as a compensation, because we know that the real price which American government and in general the United States paid is less. First of all, so we need to talk about the exact numbers, and we need to understand what Ukrainian side can receive.
Yaroslav, you're a Ukrainian journalist and you're an editor at the national public broadcaster, Suspilne. In the United States, we have our own version of this, PBS on TV, NPR on the radio. And those organizations have come under criticism in the past, particularly by the right, for having a more of a left-wing bias or at least selective coverage. Tell me a little bit about that landscape in Ukraine. Do Ukrainians trust Suspilne, and what about trust in Ukrainian media in general?
That's a nice question, because, here in Ukraine we have a wide list of media. The media which working on the standards, trying to keep all of them in their work, and the media which trying to be objective. So Suspilne always takes one of the top positions in this list. And I'm proud to work on Suspilne because, when you're doing your job in this way, when you know that people can receive the objective information from your website or your social media or whatever, you understand that you're doing something very important. Typical situation which I think describes how Ukrainians cross Suspilne is that we had like 30,000 subscribers on our Telegram channel when the full-scale invasion started. After the first week, we already had 300,000 people. So in the situation when you need to receive really objective information, and this information could be really important for your life. For example, when you're looking for the way how to evacuate from the different territory, you need to get a truce, right? So people started, it's like, like emergency media. When something is happening in your country, you're taking the exact information from public broadcasting companies. That's why people started to read Suspilne much more. And I think that they still trust us because we doing the same job we did during the first months of full-scale invasion, and even before this. We're trying to give people the real objective information.
How have the rules for journalists changed during the full-scale invasion?
They didn't change much, first of all. But now I think that we have some internal restrictions. First of all, when you're talking to the people who were damaged by the war, you need to keep some distance. You can't ask some very sensitive questions. Of course, that's general rule for all the journalists in the world. But when you work with the people, like IDPs or refugees, for example, you're doing it every day. So you need to keep it all the time. You need to keep it in your mind that you must be very polite, must be very soft talking to them. And for example, we have a very important rule that when we visiting, when we're shooting something at the places which were hit by Russian missiles, for example, we can't post the pictures or video at least for a couple of hours. If the official sources already releasing some information, yeah, we can. But before this, definitely and obviously we can't.
What about in terms of the rules of being able to still criticize the government under martial law?
To be honest, we don't have any restrictions. I can say about other medias, I don't know, but according to what I see on Suspilne, we really don't have any restrictions from the government. And for example, if you watch our TV shows, talk shows, you can see members of parliament from different parties, not only from the presidential party, let's call it this way. We invite different people from different political forces.
I want to ask you a little bit about this word pravda. It means truth in both Ukrainian and in Russian, and I understand that it has a bit of irony due to its cultural heritage as being the name of the Soviet Union's Communist Party newspaper. You and I were both born during the final months of the Soviet Union. What did Pravda mean in the Soviet Union, and what was truth in the Soviet Union, and how did that meaning of real truth, so to speak, change now into modern Ukraine?
Yeah, there was a joke that you can't find any Pravda on the pages of Pravda. And you know that we had the Pravda Avenue here in Kyiv, so the trauma from the Soviet period is so big that it was renamed past year. Now it's Avenue of European Union. And what can we say about the Soviet press in general, and maybe even about the modern Russian media? First of all, they didn't have any task to reveal the truth, to show the real situation inside the country to Soviet people. It was the official media of Soviet government. You know that there was no another medias, only under the governmental control. So obviously, what you need to show the people to keep them under your power. How perfect is life in Soviet Union? About the troubles in United States and Western countries, you know that the rotten West was like an idiom for to describe the situation in capitalistic countries. So definitely the situation changed only in time of Gorbachev. And also there was another side when you try to reveal this information to show the people what the reality is. It's shocking. It really can cause a big trauma for the people. So that's why we had a very big disappointment everywhere around the post-Soviet countries with their governments, national governments, and also we had a big jump from the like realistic way of thinking, this kind of magic way of thinking. I still remember 90s when we had newspapers about some oracles, something like mystical stories and everything else. So people were deeply involved in maybe there was like trying to escape the reality. They started to try to find something very different from the real life. So that's why in this situation you can easily manipulate the people, and that's what I think we see in Russia currently.
What are the similarities between Russian media today and what existed during the Soviet Union?
To be honest, I think that in Soviet newspapers it was easily to find the truth than in current Russian, especially Russian federal media. There is no true journalism in Russia. It was totally destroyed in the period of Vladimir Putin. Many stories about how journalists were murdered. It started, unfortunately, many years ago. And I think that you can find some truth only in very small, very local medias, not on the federal level, and maybe some media which moved abroad and currently work from European countries or somewhere else. So the media in Russia are just the instrument for propaganda for Kremlin. That's all. And we see how they spreading their influence abroad in Europe, in United States, and even in Asian countries. Like I know that the this holding of Margarita Simonyan, Russia Today, are doing their projects, for example, in India, as I remember, and some other states which are not under big Russian influence currently, but they're important to create some connections, to use it as kind of a soft power to show people that Russia is a good country, it's powerful, it's rich, and to describe some image which is totally not real, but it could work for the people, unfortunately. It could influence them.
Yaroslav, as as a journalist, why is the truth important? And would you say that having real truth, honest truth, facts, is part of what Ukrainians are fighting for right now?
You know that we're living in the period of post-truth, right? So it doesn't matter much what you show the people. It's much more important how it works on emotions. And I think that, for example, Russia is very successful in using this way when they are trying to develop their media and create some strategic communication programs. So one of the typical stories comes from, I think, 2014. Maybe you remember the story about the crucified boy, which appeared on Russian media. When the journalist tried to find out, the story was that some Ukrainian soldiers came on Donbass and crucified and killed the little boy. So then journalist found out that the woman who said all this on the camera, she was totally... all this story was a big fake. And we didn't know, was it by design or she just tried to do something by herself? I mean, was it part of Russian plan or not? It doesn't matter much because when you allow these stories like this to come on the screen, it means that you are not a journalist. You're just a worker of propaganda machine. That's all. We're not surprised seeing how Russians are trying to describe Ukrainians, but we can see any stories how Russian soldiers killing Ukrainian soldiers after capturing them, cutting their heads, and doing another terrible things. And we never see on Russian media the stories how what Russian soldiers did, for example, near Kyiv on the period of occupation. So we are fighting to show these stories, to show the truth for people here in Ukraine, people in Western countries, and maybe someday we will even reach people in Russia.
Speaking of life under occupation. You've lived here in Kyiv for a long time, but originally you're from Horlivka in Donetsk Oblast, which was occupied since 2014. At the time, what they said was the Donetsk People's Republic. We now know is Russia. What is life like for Ukrainians under Russian occupation?
That's a really complicated question. I remember the period when I visited my native city and Donetsk city for the last time. It was May of 2014. First of all, life changed due to the period of the war before 2022 because people. It's not about are you Russian or Ukrainian. It's about do you want to live in these conditions when you can't go freely to another territory because not only the territory between Ukraine and occupied regions was closed, but also between occupied regions of Ukraine and Russia. You can't just go freely with your passport of People's Republic of Donetsk because it doesn't mean anything. You need to get Russian passport or you need to get to use Ukrainian passport, and you're going to be checked on the border, and that creates many problems for your personal life. I know that, for example, in Donetsk city, there was troubles with water, and when you lose an ability to live a normal life you used to live before the war, what are you doing? You're trying to find another life in another place. I met a lot of people who moved from Donetsk to different countries like Emirates, for example, Turkey, some Western countries, and the truth is that who actually decided to stay. Maybe some fanatics, maybe, who really wanted to live in Russia, to be a part of Russia. But I think that even they were trying to move inside Russia, not staying in Donetsk region, for example. And unfortunately, pensioners and people who cannot care about themselves, who have no place to live, not on the occupied territories, somewhere besides, I mean. So what I see that according to different statistics, from 30 to 50% of the young people moved from Donetsk Oblast, Donetsk and Lugansk region during the period of occupation before the 2014 and 22. So I think that the life is really terrible there. And before the full-scale invasion, as we know, so-called governments of these two so-called republics started mobilizations on their territories. They were trying to mobilize the young people who stayed there and the people under the age of 60. And I know one story from one of my friends who currently lives not there, fortunately, but his parents are there. And one of his relatives, who was like around 55 or even 60, also was mobilized. So he received only the shovel and the bottle of the water. That's how Russians really care about people on the occupied territories. What these people means to them? Nothing.
So with that in mind, what would happen to Kyiv and what would happen to the rest of Ukraine if Ukraine were to capitulate, if Ukraine was to be defeated and Russian forces were to overtake the country? Describe what that would look like and what would happen to people like you, to journalists who have been here reporting on the war for Ukrainian media.
We know that general plan of Russia was to occupy Kyiv in 2022 and to replace the government, as we see. But they totally failed it, and I don't think that it's going to happen again. Definitely, Ukraine is not going to capitulate, and people remember what Russians did, for example, in Bucha. And not only in Bucha, Izum city in Kharkiv region, and city of Kherson, where they had places, special places to keep the people who were against the occupation government and to do terrible things to them. So I mean that Russia cannot invade and occupy Kyiv in military way. If they try to organize some protests, something on the streets, for example, and try to replace the government, even if they do this, I think that the consequences could be catastrophic, because they will do the same what they did in Bucha and other places. What does it mean for the journalist? We can see one of the bright examples, and very typical, unfortunately, about the journalist Victoria Roshina, who was captured by Russians when she was trying to get on the Russian territory and to show some stories from inside what's going on there in Russia. She was killed, she was murdered in a Russian prison past year, and that's what's going to happen to all of us.
Yaroslav, thanks very much for talking to us today. Good luck, and keep up the great reporting.
Thank you, David.
This has been The Wild East. Thanks very much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and you can support UA First Aid, the organization here in Ukraine that is delivering critical frontline medical support, by donating. Information is in the description below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on The Wild East.